I was 16 when I stabbed my godmother 7 times in the chest with a kitchen knife. I got out of juvenile detention 3 months ago. I just turned 19, and today, for the first time in my life, I'm going to tell the full truth about why I did it. Because everyone calls me a monster, a murderer, sick, but nobody really knows what she did to me for 5 years. Nobody knows what it feels like when the person who's supposed to care for you tears you apart from the inside, piece by piece, and then everyone defends them. Have you ever felt like the only way to save yourself is to destroy someone else? That there's no other way out? I have, and that's what made me who I am today. Look, I know this is going to be heavy. I know many of you will judge me before you finish listening, but I need to get this off my chest, because for 3 years in that juvenile center, I woke up every night thinking about everything that happened, about how I got to that point, about whether I really had another choice, and the truth is, I can't keep it in anymore. This story is controversial, it's brutal, it's uncomfortable, but it's mine, and I need someone, even just one person, to understand why I did what I did. I'm not looking for forgiveness, just for someone to truly listen. My name is Tyrone. I'm 19 years old, and until I was 11, my life was pretty normal. I lived with my parents in a decent-sized, comfortable apartment. I was an only child. My dad worked for a logistics company. My mom was a secretary at a doctor's office. We were a middle-class family, nothing out of the ordinary. I was a quiet kid. I liked playing video games, soccer, all the normal stuff for a kid my age. I went to a public school near home, had a few friends, got decent grades. Everything was fine. But there was someone in my family who was special to me. My godmother, Denise, was my mom's younger sister. They were about 8 years apart. Denise was 26 when I was 11. She was single, worked in marketing for a clothing company, always dressed well, always had the latest phone. She talked like she was younger than she was. Everyone in the family called her the cool aunt, the modern aunt, and I adored her. Seriously, she was my favorite person in the world. Denise always defended me when my parents scolded me. She bought me things they couldn't, like brand-name sneakers or new video games. She took me to the movies, out for burgers. She let me play her PlayStation at her apartment. She said I was her favorite nephew, her special boy. My parents were happy we had such a close relationship. My mom always said, "You're so lucky to have a godmother like that. Thank you. Denise adores you." And I believed it. I thought I was the luckiest person in the world to have her. But all of that was a lie, or rather it was the perfect mask for what was really happening. It started when I was 11. 11. It was summer. I remember the heat was unbearable. My parents had to work and left me with Denise at her apartment for a week because they had no one else to leave me with. I was happy. For me, it was like a vacation, you know? No strict rules, good food, video games all day. The first day, everything was normal. We played, watched movies, ate pizza. But the second night, after I showered, she came into the room where I was sleeping. She had a towel in her hand and said she was going to help me dry off properly because I was still a kid and couldn't do it right on my own. I won't go into all the details of what happened that night because, even now, 8 years later, I find it hard to breathe when I think about it. But I'll tell you this. It started as something she disguised as care, as special affection. She told me it was normal, that this was how people who loved each other very much showed their love, that it was our special secret, and that if I told anyone, I would be punished for being a dirty, lying child. I was 11. I didn't understand what was happening. I just knew I felt strange, uncomfortable, scared, but she was my godmother. She was an adult. She was supposed to know what she was doing. And that's how a nightmare that lasted 5 years began. At first, it only happened when I stayed overnight at her house. But as I got older, she found more and more ways to be alone with me. She offered to pick me up from school, to take me to my soccer practices, to help me with homework at her apartment, and my innocent, happy parents said yes to everything because Denise was the perfect aunt, the perfect godmother. Who would suspect anything bad? I tried to avoid her. When I was 12, 13 years old, I already knew that what was happening was wrong. I watched movies, TV shows, listened to conversations. I knew what she was doing to me wasn't normal, but I was also scared. Scared that no one would believe me. Scared of destroying my family. Scared they would think I was the sick one. Besides, Denise was very intelligent. She never left marks. She was never physically aggressive. Everything was emotional manipulation. She told me that if I told anyone, she would say I was crazy, that I made things up, that I wanted attention. She told me she was the victim, that I provoked her for being so handsome, that it was my fault she couldn't control herself. At 13, I tried to completely distance myself from her. I started making excuses not to go to her house. I said I had homework, that I had plans with friends, whatever. But she didn't give up. She'd show up at my house unannounced. She'd tell my mom she noticed I was sad and wanted to take me out to distract me. My worried mom would force me to go, and the cycle continued. When I turned 14, my school life started to fall apart. My grades dropped. I drifted away from my friends. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I felt dirty, broken, like I was wearing a giant sign that said what was happening to me. I started having anxiety attacks in class. I'd lock myself in the bathroom to cry. My parents thought it was adolescence, hormones. They took me to a school counselor twice, but I didn't say anything. How could I say it? I couldn't even think about it without wanting to vomit. But the worst was yet to come. What finally broke me wasn't just what she did to me. It was what happened when I finally tried to have something normal in my life, something of my own, something she couldn't touch. Her name was Brianna. She was 15, just like me at the time. She was new to school, had transferred mid-year. She was pretty quiet, liked to draw. We became friends in art class, and for the first time in years, I felt something akin to happiness. We talked about everything: music, movies, our dreams. Brianna wanted to be a graphic designer. I told her I used to like soccer, but I didn't play anymore. I didn't tell her why. I didn't tell her anything about Denise. But with her, I felt clean, like I could be a normal person. After 3 months, I asked her to be my girlfriend. She said yes. It was the happiest day I remember from my entire adolescence. I finally had something good, something real, someone who made me feel like I wasn't completely destroyed inside. But Denise found out. I don't know how. Maybe my parents mentioned it. Maybe she saw me with Brianna. The fact is, a week after I started dating Brianna, Denise showed up at my house with that smile I knew too well. That smile that didn't reach her eyes. She told me she needed to talk to me privately. We went to my room, and she closed the door. She told me she was very worried about me, that she had heard I had a girlfriend, and that wasn't good for me right now, that I was too young for those things. And then, with that soft, poisonous voice she used, she said, "Besides, thank you, you already know you belong to me. You don't need anyone else. Or are you going to hurt me like this? After everything we've shared, are you going to trade me for some stupid little girl?" I felt something break inside me. It wasn't just what she was doing to me. It was that she also wanted to control every aspect of my life. She wouldn't let me have anything, nothing that was mine. I told her no, that Brianna was my girlfriend, and I wasn't going to leave her. It was the first time I had ever said no to her. The first time I tried to set a boundary. Denise didn't say anything else that day. She just smiled. But 2 weeks later, Brianna's parents transferred her to a different school, and I found out why. Denise had gone to talk to them. She told them she was worried, as a godmother, because I was exhibiting strange behaviors, that she had heard rumors I was doing drugs, that she didn't want their daughter associating with bad influences, but she felt responsible for warning them. Brianna's parents believed her. Of course they believed her. She was an adult woman, a professional, concerned. Why wouldn't they believe her? Brianna sent me one last message before blocking me. It said, "My parents told me everything. I can't believe you lied to me. I don't want to hear from you again." I tried to explain. I sent her messages, called her, went to look for her, but she didn't want to listen anymore, and I couldn't tell her the truth. I couldn't tell her what was really happening, because I couldn't even admit it out loud. That night, I locked myself in my room and cried, until I ran out of breath. And then I did something I had never done before. I found an old razor blade of my dad's and cut my forearm. It wasn't deep, it didn't even hurt that much. But for a moment, that physical pain was easier to manage than everything I felt inside. It was the first time, and it wouldn't be the last. The following months were hell. I stopped eating properly. I lost about 18 pounds. My parents thought I was sad about the breakup with Brianna, that it was teenage heartbreak. They didn't understand that it wasn't that. It was that I had lost the only good thing in my life, and the person who had taken it from me was the same person who destroyed me every chance she got. Self-harm became more frequent. I cut myself in places no one could see: thighs, sides. I wore long sleeves even in summer. I didn't care. I needed to feel something that wasn't that constant filth on my skin. Denise kept showing up. She kept finding ways to be alone with me, and I still couldn't do anything. But something was changing in me. I was no longer the scared one 1-year-old. I was no longer the confused one 3-year-old. I was 15, almost 16, and sadness was turning into rage, into a deep hatred. Every time I saw her, every time she touched me, I wanted to scream at her, push her, hurt her like she hurt me. And then I made the most important and most terrifying decision of my life. I decided I was going to tell my mom. She was my mother. She was supposed to protect me. She was supposed to believe me. I planned exactly what I was going to say, how I was going to explain it. I mustered up courage for weeks. Wait, before I continue with what happened next, I need to ask you something. If you've made it this far, if you're listening to this, I need you to like this video. Seriously. I know it's uncomfortable. I know it's heavy. But these stories need to be told. They need to be heard. And if you like it, more people can see it. More people who are perhaps going through something similar and feel as alone as I did. Also, subscribe to the channel. It's easy. Just hit the red subscribe button. Here we tell real stories. Stories that hurt, but stories that need to come to light. Now, what comes next? This is what will truly shock you. Because when I finally gathered the courage to speak, everything became 1,000 times worse. I had just turned 16. It was a Saturday afternoon. My dad had gone to play soccer with his friends. It was just my mom and I at home. She was in the living room watching TV. I sat beside her. My hands were trembling. I felt like I was going to faint, but I knew that if I didn't say it then, I would never say it. I told her, "Mom, I need to tell you something very important, something that's been happening for a long time." She turned off the TV and looked at me, worried. She asked if I was in trouble, if I had failed something. I told her no, that it was much worse than that. And then, with my voice breaking, I told her. I told her everything from when I was 11, what Denise had done to me, how she manipulated me, how she threatened me. I told her about the times I stayed at her house, about how I felt. I showed her the scars on my arms. I begged her to believe me. And you know what happened? My mom looked at me as if I were a stranger, as if I were a monster. She got up from the couch and took 3 steps back and said to me in a voice I had never heard from her, "What did you just say?" I repeated everything, crying, trembling. I told her it was true, that Denise had been abusing me for years, that I needed help, that I couldn't take it anymore. And you know what my mom replied? My own mother. She said, "You're sick, Tyrone. You're very sick. How dare you invent something like that about your godmother, about my sister? What kind of sick mind do you have to say such outrageous things?" She didn't believe me. She didn't believe a single word. I screamed that it was true. I got on my knees. I begged her, but she kept shaking her head. She said I was making it all up, that lately I had been strange, aggressive, problematic, that it was probably because of drugs. Because yes, now she was also accusing me of doing drugs. She said I was seeking attention, that I wanted to destroy the family, that how dare I tarnish Denise's name like that. She called my dad. She told him what his son had just said. My dad came home an hour later. They both interrogated me as if I were a criminal, as if I were the villain of the story. I swore on everything that it was true, but it was no use. They had decided I was lying, or worse, that I was crazy. That night, they called Denise. They told her what I had said, and she, of course, cried. She played the perfect victim. She said she was devastated, that she didn't understand why I would say something like that she had always treated me like a son. She said that lately she had noticed I was strange, distant, aggressive with her, that I had even yelled at her once for no reason, that maybe I had mental problems or was hanging out with the wrong crowd. My parents believed her. Of course they believed her. She was the responsible adult, the successful professional, the perfect aunt. I was the problematic teenager with scars on my arms and low grades. Who were they going to believe? The next few days were torture. My parents took me to a psychologist, but not to help me, to fix me, to figure out what was wrong with me and why I had invented those horrible lies. The psychologist was an older man with thick glasses and a notebook where he wrote everything down. I told him the same thing I told my parents, everything in detail. He just nodded and wrote. At the end of the session, he told my parents that I had worrying behaviors and needed intensive therapy to work on my fantasies and my aggressiveness. No one believed me, absolutely no one. I felt more alone than ever. I had done what you're supposed to do. I had spoken. I had asked for help, and everything had gotten worse. Now, my own family thought I was crazy, that I was a liar, a sick person. I stopped eating. I stopped leaving my room. I cut myself almost every day. I thought of ways to disappear, to end everything. Because if no one believed me, if not even my mom believed me, then what was the point of continuing? 3 weeks passed like that. 3 weeks where I barely slept, where every second felt like an eternity. And then something happened that changed everything forever. Denise showed up at my house on a Tuesday night. She knocked on the door. My mom let her in. I was in my room. I heard their voices downstairs, laughter, normal conversation, as if nothing had happened, as if I hadn't destroyed my entire life trying to escape her. Then she came upstairs, knocked on my bedroom door, entered without waiting for an answer, locked the door behind her, sat on my bed, and looked at me with that smile. That smile I'll remember all my life. And she said, "Thank you, honey. I need to tell you something. Something important, something that will change everything between us." I didn't say anything. I just looked at her with all the hatred I could muster. She didn't seem to care. She took something out of her purse, a white envelope, and put it on the bed between us. "I'm 2 months pregnant," she told me. "It's yours, obviously." I did the math. It was that night 2 months ago, when your parents went to your grandmother's birthday, and you stayed with me. Do you remember? I felt like the world stopped, like the floor disappeared beneath my feet, like everything became unreal pregnant with me. I was 16, she was 31, and she was pregnant with me. At first I didn't know if I should keep the baby, she continued as if she were talking about the weather. But then I thought, this is perfect. Now we'll finally be able to be together forever. Your parents will have to accept us. They'll have to understand that this is real love, that we're meant for each other. Isn't it beautiful? Thank you. We're going to be a family. I couldn't breathe, I couldn't think. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. She kept talking. She said she had already planned everything, that she would wait another month and then tell my parents, that she would make it seem romantic, that we would say we fell in love unintentionally, that love has no age, that I would move in with her when I turned 17, that we would raise the baby together. She was completely unhinged, but she said everything so normally, as if she wasn't describing a complete nightmare, as if I had any choice in all of this. I told her no, that that would never happen, that I didn't want anything to do with her, that I hated her, that I didn't want that baby, that I didn't want that life. Denise stopped smiling. She looked at me intently and said, "You don't have a choice, Tyrone. That baby already exists. It's already part of you, of us. And if you try to pull away, if you try to ruin this, I will destroy you. I'll tell everyone that you harassed me, that you forced me, that I tried to push you away, but that you threatened me. Who do you think they're going to believe? A scared, pregnant adult woman, or a troubled teenager with mental problems?" She got up from the bed, put the envelope away, and before leaving, she leaned in and whispered in my ear, "See you soon, Daddy," and she left. I sat there. I don't know for how long. It could have been an hour. It could have been 5 minutes. Time ceased to exist. I could only think of one thing. She was never going to stop. She was never going to leave me alone. Now she didn't just have me trapped. Now she was going to bring a baby into the world. A baby that was going to be the chain that tied me to her forever. And then I knew with terrifying clarity. If I didn't do something, if I didn't end this once and for all, I was going to live my entire life trapped. I was going to raise that child with her. I was going to be part of that sick lie. I was going to die inside every day, and maybe eventually, I was going to actually kill myself. I had to choose, her or me. That night, I didn't sleep. I stayed awake staring at the ceiling, thinking, planning. I knew what I was thinking was terrible. I knew there was no turning back. But I also knew it was the only way to be free, the only way for this to end. I didn't think about it anymore. If I kept thinking about it, I would regret it. I would chicken out. So I acted. I waited 2 days. 2 days where I acted normal. I ate with my parents, went to school, did my homework. I made them believe I was better, that maybe the therapy was working. They seemed relieved. My mom even hugged me and said she knew I would be okay, that we would get through this difficult episode. On Thursday night, I waited for my parents to fall asleep. It was around 11:30. I went down to the kitchen, took a knife from the rack, a big one with a black handle, the one my mom used to cut meat. I wrapped it in an old sweatshirt. I climbed out my bedroom window. It was on the first floor, so it was easy. Denise lived about 15 blocks from my house. I walked fast. The streets were empty. There was little light. No one saw me. Or if they did, they didn't care. I was just a teenager walking at night. I got to her building. I knew the entry code because I had been there 1,000 times. I went up the stairs to the 3rd floor, apartment 3B. I rang the doorbell. She opened the door in her pajamas. She looked surprised. "Thank you. What are you doing here at this hour?" I told her I needed to talk to her, that I had made a decision. She smiled. That smile. She thought she had won. She thought I had given up. She let me in. She closed the door. She asked if I wanted anything to drink. I said no. We sat on the living room couch. She leaned closer to me, put her hand on my leg and said, "I knew you'd understand, thank you. I knew you'd realize this is what's best for both of us. We're going to be so happy." I pulled the knife out of the sweatshirt. Everything happened very fast and very slowly at the same time. I saw her face change from a smile to confusion, then to fear. She tried to get up. I didn't let her. The first stab was in the stomach. Where was the baby? Where was that thing that was going to chain me to her forever? She screamed. She tried to grab the knife. We struggled. I was stronger. I was 16, but I was taller than her. And I had years of accumulated rage, years of disgust, of pain, of everything. The second stab was in the chest. The third too. I lost count after that. I just remember that I couldn't stop. Every time I plunged the knife, I felt like I was getting a piece of myself back. Every time she screamed, I thought of all the times I had wanted to scream and couldn't. Every time I saw her blood, I thought of all the times I had bled in silence. When I finally stopped, she wasn't moving anymore. She was lying on the living room floor. There was blood everywhere, on the couch, on the walls, on my hands, on my clothes, on my face. I stood there looking at her. I felt nothing, no guilt, no fear, no relief, just emptiness. A huge emptiness where all that rage had been before. I took out my phone, called 911. When they answered, I said, "I just killed my godmother. I'm in her apartment. Come arrest me." I gave them the address and sat on the floor to wait for them, still holding the knife. They arrived in 10 minutes, police, paramedics, forensics. They entered with their weapons drawn. They yelled at me to drop the knife. I dropped it. They threw me to the floor. They cuffed me, read me my rights, put me in a patrol car. I didn't say anything during the ride. I just looked out the window. I thought that it was finally over, that she would never touch me again, that that baby would never be born, that I was free, even if that freedom meant going to jail. At the station, they interrogated me for hours. Prosecutor, public defender, psychologists, social workers. I told them everything from the beginning. I told them about the abuse, about the pregnancy, everything. At first, they didn't believe me. They thought I was making up excuses, but they performed Denise's autopsy. They confirmed she was pregnant. 2.5 months, exactly. They performed DNA tests on the fetus. It was mine. That changed everything. My parents arrived at the station the next day. My mom was crying hysterically. My dad didn't say anything. He just looked at me as if he didn't know me. The lawyer explained everything, the evidence, the pregnancy, the DNA, the evidence of prolonged sexual abuse. At first, my mom didn't want to believe it. She kept saying there had to be another explanation, but the numbers didn't lie, the dates didn't lie. I was 11 when it started. 11. My mom broke down right there. She knelt on the station floor and cried like I had never seen her cry. She screamed that she was sorry, that she should have believed me, that she was a terrible mother. My dad just hugged her and cried too, but I felt nothing. It was too late for that. The trial was long. It lasted months with psychological evaluations, hearings, testimonies. The prosecutor wanted to try me as an adult. He wanted me to get 20 years, but my lawyer presented all the evidence of the abuse. The psychological evaluations showed severe PTSD, major depression, suicidal tendencies. I had the self-harm scars. I had the school psychologist records. I had everything. In the end, the judge ruled that although what I did was an atrocious crime, there were significant mitigating circumstances. That I was a victim who acted in an altered mental state resulting from years of systemic abuse. That the news of the pregnancy was the trigger that made me collapse. He sentenced me to 3 years in a juvenile detention center with intensive therapy. I would be released at 19 if I maintained good behavior. Those 3 years were, I don't even know how to describe them. There were good days and horrible days. I had therapy 3 times a week, individual therapy, group therapy, psychiatrist. I was diagnosed with complex PTSD, depression, generalized anxiety. They gave me medication. Some helped, others made me feel like a zombie. The other kids at the center all had their stories. Some had killed, others had raped, others had stolen or sold drugs. At first, everyone looked at me strangely, because I was the one who killed my godmother. But when word got out about why I did it, some understood. Others told me I did the right thing, that they would have done the same. My mom visited me every week. My dad came less often. It was hard for both of them, especially my mom. She carried the guilt of not believing me, of allowing Denise to continue abusing me, of taking me to psychologists who treated me as if I were the problem. I tried to tell her it wasn't her fault, that Denise was very good at manipulating, but I know she will never forgive herself. I served the full 3 years. Good behavior. Constant therapy. I finished high school by correspondence from inside. I read many books. I learned to live with what I did. It's not that I'm proud. It's not that I think it was the morally correct decision, but it was the only decision I felt I had at the time. I got out 3 months ago, just when I turned 19. My mom picked me up. We moved to a new city. Too many bad memories in the old place. Too many stairs, too many rumors. Here, no one knows me. I'm just a 19-year-old kid who works at a supermarket and takes online classes to get a technical certificate. I still go to therapy. I'll probably go my whole life. I still have nightmares. I still wake up thinking about that night, about the blood, about her face, about the baby that was never born. I still wonder if I could have done something different, if I could have escaped another way. But the truth is, I don't think I had another option. The system didn't protect me. My family didn't believe me. Denise was never going to stop, and that baby was going to chain me to her forever. So I took the only way out I saw. I eliminated her from my life in the only way I could. I don't regret it. I know I'm supposed to. I know I killed someone. I know that makes me a murderer. But she killed something in me too. She killed the one-year-old boy who trusted adults. She killed the teenager who just wanted to be normal. She killed my ability to trust, to love, to feel whole. So, no. I don't regret it. People ask me, were you a victim or an aggressor? And I tell them, I was both. I was the victim for 5 years, and I was the aggressor for one night. Both things can be true at the same time. Was what I did justified? I don't know. You decide. I only know that at that moment, at 16 years old, traumatized, terrified, seeing my future destroyed by that pregnancy, I felt there was no other way out, that it was her or me, and I chose to save myself. Some will say I should have given the system another chance, that I should have insisted more, that I should have sought more help, but I had already tried. I had already told my mom. I had already gone to the psychologist. No one believed me, no one helped me. How many times did I have to ask for help before I had the right to defend myself? Others will say that what I did was excessive, that I could have reported her after the baby was born, that I could have run away from home, that there were other options. And maybe they're right. Maybe my traumatized 6-year-old brain couldn't see those options. Maybe fear and desperation blinded me. I don't know. What I do know is this. I survived. I am alive. I am free from her. And although I carry this weight every day, although I know this will haunt me my entire life, at least it's mine. Not the life she wanted to impose on me. Not a life tied to her by that baby. My life. And if that makes me a monster, then I guess I'm a monster. But I'm a monster who broke free from something worse. Now, if you've made it this far, if you've listened to this whole story, I need you to do something for me, something important. Like this video. Seriously, I know it's a heavy story. I know it probably made you uncomfortable. But these stories need to be told because there are thousands of teenagers out there suffering abuse in silence, thinking no one will believe them, thinking they have no way out. And maybe, just maybe, if they hear this story, they'll realize they're not alone, that someone else lived it, that it's possible to survive. Also, subscribe to the channel. It's super easy. Just tap the red subscribe button and the bell to receive notifications. We upload real stories here every day, stories of people who have lived through difficult things, stories that need to be heard. And the more people subscribe, the more stories we can share, the more people we can help. Comment too. Tell me what you think. Did I do the right thing? Was it justified? Am I a victim or an aggressor? Would you have done the same in my place? I want to know what you think. I want to know if anyone understands me or if everyone thinks I'm a monster. Tell me if you've lived through something similar, if you know someone who's going through something like this. Share your stories. This is a safe space, a community where we support each other. And look, I know this video was long, very long, but these experiences can't be told in 5 minutes. You can't summarize 5 years of abuse, and one night that changed everything in a short video. I needed to tell it completely. I needed you to understand every part, every decision, every moment that led me to do what I did. Forgive me if it was too much, if it was too heavy, if it was too graphic. But this is my truth. This is my story, and I needed to get it out. I needed someone to truly listen. Not the psychologist at the center, not the judge, not my family who look at me with guilt and pity, but someone who would simply listen without judging prematurely. Thank you for making it to the end. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for being part of this community. where we can be honest about the darkest things we've lived through, where we don't have to pretend everything is okay, where we can be real. See you in the next video. And remember, you are not alone. You are never alone. There is always someone who understands. There is always someone who listens. Sometimes you just have to find the courage to speak. And if you are going through something similar to what I went through, please speak up, seek help, insist, don't give up. And if the system fails, find another way. But don't carry that alone. Even if it sometimes seems like there's no way out, there always is. Even if that way out isn't what you expected, even if that way out comes with consequences. But living trapped is not living, and we all deserve to be free.